Hi, how is everyone doing? Are we enjoying Loop so far? Yeah. That's fantastic. So thanks for coming today. This is an event that I'm really excited to be hosting today. This is I Speak Music, manipulating, improvising, and composing with vocals. The voice is something that we all have. We use the voice to speak. We use it to sing. It's something that is instinctive. It's built into us. It's an instrument that we carry always with us. And what's so special about the voice, I think, is if you look through all of human history, and there have been so many different cultures of using the voice in music and different kinds of storytelling. Almost as many different kinds of traditions as there have been people who have used their voice. So it's just this terribly diverse, unique instrument that has so much to do with our bodies and how we feel and emotions. So I think the voice is something that's really special in music making. Just to let you know who I am, my name is Lyra Pramuk. I am a member of the Ableton Loop programming committee and the core programming team. So I have spent a lot of time to put this event together this year, and we choose sort of what's on display here at Loop. Yeah. I'm also a singer, performance artist, composer, and I do my own music and with computers, with technology. So it's a topic that's very close to my heart. So why are we here today? What are we going to do? We're here because standing behind me, we have 3 phenomenal artists who are all using their voice with technology in some really interesting ways. And the time that we live in now is this time of the personal merging with the technological. So there are so many ways to make this happen. It's no longer just this notion of the voice being used in traditional ways, just for singing, just for speaking, but we have the voice as a sample, the voice as a signal that you can process. And so we have all of these different things on display here, and shall we go in now? I would like to introduce you to these artists we have on stage. This is Shlomo, SK Shlomo.
Hi.
In the middle here, Doseone. And last but certainly not least, Katie Gately.
Ow!
So what we would do now is, first of all, I'm going to get out of the front, and I'm going to go more in the back. We'll demo through setups, we'll talk through their processes, and then learn how each of them uses their personal relationship with their voice in performance and manipulation through technology. So I have a question for you guys, and I'll just take it one by one. And I'd like to start with you, Shlo. When was the first time you used your voice to make music?
So, can you hear me out there?
Is it working?
Can you hear my mic? Let's see. I can't hear it in my headphones, though. So I was an 8-year-old boy obsessed with music and rhythm and showing off. And my parents bought me a drum kit for my birthday, but they said, you know what? Here's a drum kit, happy birthday, but please don't play it. So I had to find ways to express rhythm without annoying anybody, which I failed at by discovering beatboxing. But it gave me a way to kind of make music vocally and express all the sounds I was hearing around me, but without needing anything, no equipment, no drums, nothing that would annoy anybody except my big brother.
Sure. And then beatboxing became something for you that wasn't simply a means of not distracting your family, but you became something that you started to channel musical energy through in a much more intense way, right?
Yeah, like for me, music is just everywhere. Like music, so I was obsessed with the drums and obsessed with the piano and writing and composing and creating, but what the beatboxing and the vocal stuff gave me was this like portability and this kind of versatility. So like, I don't know, I really love drumming, but when you're on stage drumming, you're at the kit, like you are shackled to that kit. But when you are free to run around the stage and just express music anywhere you go and in any kind of direction you want to go musically, like that's what the voice gives you. You've got that huge range and that huge kind of versatile tool for creation, and that for me was key. I needed something that I could just do everywhere all the time. Music doesn't stop in my head, so I don't see why it should stop coming out of me either, you know?
Sure. Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about it. How about you, Dose?
Before I was a creative human being, I was a violent child due to the mechanics of humanity. But so I started freestyle rapping with some hoodlum pals of mine at the Jersey Shore when I was 15 and change. And I already wrote graffiti, so I was stuck with Doseone. People get to think of their rap name later in life. I was fucked. My shitty tag name. And I started freestyling, and I had close friends around me, so they didn't tell me how whack I was, and I just kept going with it. And then, at first I was very concerned with posturing and sounding like I was 300 pounds more than I possibly was. And then I eventually found my own voice and got exposed to people like Freestyle Fellowship, who do polysyllabic, triple time, crazy rap, and I was like, that's way harder than what I'm doing. I think I love that. And then through freestyling, I found battle rapping. And that was an extension of violence that, again, I got into it because it was like less fight. And then eventually I found art. I found a community, started Anticon, which is all these collective human beings like myself in the middle of nowhere. And then I found me after recording a bunch like I was heavy set.
Yeah, great. So it really started with rap for you.
Yeah.
It was like freestyle.
Yeah, I have no musical training. I learned from self-taught, beautiful people around me. I would just be like... And the same goes for Ableton, electronics, all that stuff. So, suck till you don't. That's my advice.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Totally. I'm going to swing over here. Katie, same question. So when did you really start using your voice?
Yeah, well, I was really late to the game. I started in grad school for film, and I was doing a semester of dialogue editing, which is very clinical, OCD, perfectionistic, getting rid of mouth clicks, and that felt very oppressive to me, like Photoshop, like Sonic Photoshop, and I started singing really badly, like as a reaction to that, and recording my voice, and then like using software I was using to remove noise, I would then try to like actually emphasize the noise in my voice, because I was just being defiant. And that made me realize I did not want to be a dialogue editor, and then it kind of became a very fun, like joyful, positive, creative path from there. But it started like sort of violently with some, like reactionary stuff.
And what do you mean when you say noise? When it started with noise, or you make this distinction between like maybe normal singing and like sort of noise, or
like the plosive in a microphone, the things that aren't supposed to be there, that like the transparency would be removed. So, and also like the and all the like kind of nasty sounds are like right now, like that stuff. Like in a film, you would like redraw the waveforms like in Pro Tools or use RX, whatever, Isotope RX. So I would like invert the settings, So if you do the RX search for the noise, you can like bypass it, but you can also like reverse it, and then I just like resample the noise.
Right.
And it was really curiosity, but then I felt like interesting stuff was there to play with. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Sometimes when you do something exactly the wrong way, it works.
It's a
right?
gift. Yeah.
Science.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So now, what I think would be really cool, you all have brought some very impressive gear setups. Katie, what do you have going on here?
Okay.
Can you just show us a bit? Maybe we can also get the cam up here.
Yeah.
You have quite a rig.
Yeah. So will this work if I Should I just show visually, or should I show what they do through the mic?
I think maybe just
Okay, yeah.
Just what is your sort of signal, like the signal path, or sort of what do some of these do? Just
Yeah.
how is your voice moving through?
Yeah,
this
so
gear?
it comes in here, and then this like Pog 2, you can, so these are all guitar pedals. It's probably obvious, but so you can add an octave up, 2 octaves up, an octave down, another octave down. This will give me like, this is octaves, so this will give me like minor second, major third. And I can use latch, so I can be singing a note and then change the note or add a harmony. I just like that. I like the way the pitch shifting sounds. This is a like $10 chorus pedal that sounds really gnarly. And then this is multi-effects. This is sort of like a freeze pedal, so I might sing a note and it'll catch it, and it won't sound like it's looping. It'll sustain, which is, I think, pretty beautiful.
You have these little guys here.
These little guys, another pitch shifting pedal. This is like flanger, detuner, chorus, ring, echo, does a bunch of stuff. This pedal, I don't know what it does. I just got it, and it's called a dream sequence, and it's described as a rhythm and octave, a programmable rhythm and octave. Like it doesn't. It's a sequencer. It kind of changes your the pitch of whatever's coming in, and then gives you different like subdivisions and shapes to like an LFO.
I see. So it's sort of arpeggiating and pitch shifting.
Yeah.
And okay.
And then like there's some randomization, and you can automate. What's cool about these 2 pedals is you can actually automate. So if I hold this down and turn a knob and let go, it'll play that back. This is like a Mel 9, which has some cheesy like choir settings, so it'll kind of add this like choir setting to the voice. This, similar to Dream Sequence, is it's an Infinite Jets, which I guess is a play on David Foster Wallace.
Okay.
Resynthesizer, so it's kind of like glitch and synth and swells and blurs, and this is incredible. Like it never sounds the same twice. It's very unreliable, and I'm afraid to use it today because this is like a $20 compressor. This is a little pan knob. I like panning. This is a doubler. This is a gorgeous reverb unit. This is a Terra Echo. This is a slicer, which kind of allows for more panning, tremolo-esque sounds, kind of dance music sounds. And then this is a little reverb. This is a multi-effects guitar pedal. Yeah, and this is, I have a problem. I really have a problem.
So, I mean, I'm just wondering, like, how do you even choose where to start? Like when you're looking at this rig, you know, you're like, I want to create something with my voice. Where do you even begin with everything?
I usually begin like kind of in the order it is, like the pitch stuff, and then I'll play around with these because there's some randomization that will happen, and that's exciting to me. Like when it's not something I'm intending, and I don't like there's an unreliability that excites me, and you know sometimes just turning feedback up on the echo, or like just maxing out the decay on a reverb will just be beautiful enough. It doesn't have to be fancy.
Is it you're like a punk? It's like this little like juice up the volume
exactly.
a bit.
Yeah, like the front of house people are probably like, yeah. But yeah, so it's for me it's very fun, and but it never feels like enough. So I just keep buying more pedals. So.
Yeah, totally. So you sort of arrange them in a physical space also in a way that you sort of start in this corner and then move.
Yeah, like a lot of people I think they'll arrange their pedal boards to be the most economical with space. But for me, I guess I'm a dum-dum because it's like there to there to there. I need it to go like that and then like that and like that. I need that or else I'll get lost. Maybe I'll evolve at some point, but for now it's pretty much pitching and then modulation, and I don't have any distortion really. These have some drive, and then the time-based effects over here.
Cool, great.
Yeah.
So we could move on to Dose.
Hi, Lyra.
And let's just say, so you're using not just your voice, not just hardware pedals as Katie, but you're also doing quite a lot of triggering and using the laptop as well. So
Yeah, so I knew that these guys would be rig heavy, so I was like, I'm just gonna go what my throat can do.
Yeah.
This is a new piece of technology called the Chaos Pad. You might have never heard of it. I utilize it because, this is designed by years of shit breaking on the road. So I tried to make something that if I'm in Istanbul and this explodes, I can go get this again. So it's dialed in that regard to be breakable and replaceable. And then in order to ensure I have boredom problems or patience, I don't know, whatever it is, in order to ensure that I am satiated with every time I play back static stems, I have created a giant good button that is my Keith McMillan Q Neo. So everything I touch on here, I like. These are, so you guys know what this is, this little push. I only use this because big push is so big. Can't get it in a backpack, you know, or under my shirt or wherever I like to hold MIDI controllers. This is a Q Neo. The Q Neo is when you first get it, not fun. It's very hard to get your head around, but once you rip and strip it of its functionalities, you can replace and assign what every button is doing. It takes velocity, it sends notes, receives notes. So every single corner of these squares is a different sound. So again, I don't suck. I just press it, goes great. And then every other button is designed to save my precious CPU and not explode things, and it's actually turning off and on various beat repeats and plugins I hold dear that do not crash an Ableton session. So it's all streamlined to not fuck my setup in the middle. And then also always keep me entertained when I'm playing back static stems. So I drop and bring in things. I keep the computer as shut as it can be without shutting it off. And that takes, I just have to neurotically rehearse in order to memorize. But I find that's also how I eventually am actually myself on stage, is by over-preparing what my fucking hands do.
So you don't even want to see the laptop at all.
Yeah,
you just want to know that
thing.
it's there.
Yeah, I don't want it. No, but what I do love about Ableton is I do very complex arrangements and crescendos, and I don't want to leave those at home or like have to get on a MPD or, you know, I actually want to do it all from one place. So what I do is I bake a lot of transitions in, and then I allow myself to use beat repeats and simplify and pull things out so I can change the composition at will, but know that when I'm trance ramping up into my chorus, it's there, and I can rely on what I did in the studio to make me as fun live as I want to be without having a band and whatnot. And then these are more new tech. That's a mixer. This is another mixer.
Right.
So another thing that I do, because shit happens with computers, is I always run my vocals out dedicated through a separate mixer. So if power goes down or something happens, I can do comedy. So a baby seal walks into a club. I'm saying. Anyway, see? Magic. And then this one is just to have another volume knob on my DAW volume in general. And I find that that's good for playing shitty warehouses, which I grew up in and still play today. It's my home. So this allows me to deal with no sound guy or a guy on too much drugs and not enough mix. And that is pretty much it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is there a reason that you have these things down here and these things up here?
Oh, yeah. Oh, and then I have this thing, which, whatever. It does its job, and I use it to slave Tornado, which is the greatest plugin in the history of live playback. And I do this so that I can go under...
Sorry to interrupt. Could you just mention what Tornado is for people who might not know what it is?
Tornado is made by Sugar Bytes. They make a series of fantastic plugins, and Tornado is all... It's an effect VST that houses other effects within it. So you can put any 8 effects in it and assign them to 8 knobs, and there's beat repeats, there's effects I'll never use in my entire life, like flange. Why are we still making flange? Anyway, but it's a beautiful effect. I really, again, like some of the beat repeats I've chosen, it's a marvelous way to enjoy your stems you've memorized on a nightly basis when you're performing and get back into it and fuck things up and be yourself.
Great. Cool. Well, thanks for the little walkthrough here. Shlo, what's up?
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. So what do you have going on here? You do have a push, I see.
Yeah.
How is this all working? Like, what's your ecosystem?
So mine is, everybody is living very much within live with an Ableton. So I try to do as much as I can within Push. So I've created a bunch of Macs for live devices. So I've basically hacked the way Push works. So I could create a kind of multi-looper which I'm going to go into a lot more detail. I'm doing a whole presentation about that tomorrow, 12:45 in this room. But
Yeah.
I can show you it in like less detail now. But I kind of wanted to emulate the hardware loopers that I grew up with. Like I grew up with loop stations. I was the first ever world loop station champion, which I'm super proud of. Thank you very much.
We get applause.
But then after that happened, after I won that competition, people started sending me pedals and amazing stuff like what Katie's got. And I just became like Katie. I was like, this is amazing. I'm going to plug them all in. And then my rig just got like bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then one day I just had a bit of a nightmare. They were all just not playing with each other. Like I was trying to synchronize them through MIDI. And I was just crying, which happens a lot, but a lot that particular day. And I just thought, I want to try and emulate everything I'm doing in the software. But Ableton, I love Ableton so much, but it needed a bit of help, just with a bit of help with Max for Live, so I could undo some of the things that are very solidly done in Ableton, and especially with Push, because Push is so powerful. But once you unlock it with Max, you can access every single button on there. You can access every single color, RGB, LED lights, velocity, aftertouch is so powerful. And if you can get inside the hood of it, then you can start to like basically hardwire your brain into the computer so that the way you're thinking is coming out through the kit. So my kind of walkthrough is less interesting, I guess, than you guys. I've got this Leap Motion guy here, which is quite exciting. So it's an infrared sensor. So I kind of, when I'm performing, I'm waving my hand around like, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
But that's mapped to about 8 or 9
Can you do
different
anything with
effects.
that now?
Yeah, I can kind of demonstrate it.
Yeah.
So if you put a little loop in first. Oh God, why don't you work right now? So I made a super cool abstract 5/4 rhythm for you there, super deliberately.
Yeah.
But then, so like, super fun, right? So it can like, Leap Motion can recognize, I think there's 8 or 9 different movements to do with like tilt, bend, where you've moved your hands, if your hands are open or closed, and then you can map them all through MIDI mapping into Ableton, so I'm controlling a bunch of effects with that. It's not super, I think you used the word reliable, like it's not, can you still hear me? It's not super consistent, so I use it more for broad brushstrokes rather than anything where you want something to actually happen in a specific way. But for something more specific, I'd use Touchable here on my iPad. So Touchable is an Ableton controller. And I basically tried to emulate the Chaos pad, which Doseone has over there. I used to love my Chaos pad, so I wanted to have the X, Y kind of control, so you can control things three, what do you call it? Three planes at once.
Right. What sort of effects are you controlling with XY pad? Or what's the?
So mostly beat repeats and like little glitch effects, and I've got some
And this is all processing?
It's all, yeah, like, so...
Vocals?
It's mostly vocals, yeah, but I've got lots of clips and synths and stuff that I've created at home in the studio, and then I can kind of trigger them live and mix it with the live loop in. Oh yeah, and I've got this thing here. I made like a sampler that can like sample you guys. So everyone just, after 3, just go, yeah! Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah!
Ha! That's excitingly not happening.
It happens. Shall we try again?
Yeah. So it works for me. Let me try you guys again. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah!
Doesn't want to play today. I'll have a little look at that while someone else is talking.
Sure. We can try it again.
Yeah.
And then you have these pads up here, your little Akai LPD.
Yeah, so I've got the LPDs, and these are just, I use them just to switch effects on and off, just like reverb, if I want it there. Like, that's so straightforward what that's happening. There's nothing clever there at all. It's just turn shit on, turn shit up. That's
you need some interface. You need some
physical
couple
buttons.
more knobs, some buttons.
Physical knobs and buttons, which will always be there, because like you don't want to be scrolling through pages when you reach for those really key effects. They want to be there the whole time.
Totally. So I think you prepared a little something to demo this, what I will still call an ecosystem. I could maybe step off, and you could just give it a go for a sec?
I'll have a go for sure.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you SK Shlomo. That's kind of the idea.
Hey.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll come back. We'll come back and see you again.
Yeah,
so I'll let
cool.
you play with your mic.
All right, cool. I love doing that.
And we'll be back in 1 sec.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ow!
So,
Hi, Lyra.
Dose, we're back. And
It's my turn to make a mess.
yes,
Okay.
but can you tell me, because you're so good with words, like tell me, like what's your like musical style? Like give me something.
Shit. My musical style is self-taught, boss. No parents ever home, never. I am I'm highly critical of what I do, what the world does, and I try to be very free. At the same time, I try to be a lover and a hater, and form that into my own discern, which is for me all I have. You know, so I basically, you know, when I get a new keyboard, I'm like, hate this sound, save that sound, hate that sound, you know, and from there I memorize stuff. And then I guess what I'm doing here is like I've been in a million bands, Cloud Dead, 13 and God, Themselves, Subtle, other stuff. And what I'm gonna do is like a medley of crazy rapping, some singing, and some other crazy rapping.
Yeah.
I love rapping in triplets, because it makes me roll my eyes back in my head and not breathe. And then, of course, though, mind you, I'm completely lyric-driven. So I started as a battle rapper, was all about offending someone more than they were offending me. But then I found poetry, people like Galway Cannell, Marilyn Hacker, and I love the word, man. It's the way I get chills. I got chills from watching you, but primarily I get chills from what is said and how it's said. So I give a fuck. I write prose, you know.
Yeah, that sounds all amazing. Can we hear it?
Yeah. Remember, kids, stay in school.
The meanest and colossal leaders, how cheap is so weird. He's a defeated, short-leaded, ideas seated and weakness seated. Out of the bleed, I got his heart-heated reason. All the gel beating your peeping, I'm overachieving and you disbelieve it. Even knows that you're breathing, conceit is a beat out your up and we're deep and stepping to me and my LLC. And you can get caught with the sheep and caught over cousin to seek it. Too weak and uneven speaking, weaken heathen shit. In this world, you never get what's owed. And I never took a thing that I rightfully stole. To meet ends, hide friends, and to rent. And only thing I regret's to whom I am in debt. So we started to play before and ready that day in the sun. And that's done like hope guns for those who wax way beside it. Or is it every man for his eye? Or every hourglass through sand? Fuck that, we taking hands. This two-man band killing the name of the ant. We ride to die, giving in the kingdom of can. Ain't a damn thing right about this. I will take your name. Call my passion your game. These fools fall on main. Let my lines get tamed. I was set with on you when I see you serve this concrete. Green room or street to be the company of weak. And I'm a curious sleep. No, you can't have a hook. You can get a big bowl of them. Just to say, as he calls so leaders. How sheep is so brilliant, he's undefeated. Shortly did I be seated and wicked seated. I be completed. I got his heart heated, reason on a jelly and you're beeping. I'm overachieving and you disbelieve it. Even knows that you're breathing. Conceit as a biatch. You're arguing with deep seven of me and my LLC, and you get caught with the sheep and caught over cousin they're seeking to be and uneven speaking. We can even tick 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 tick. Time.
You know what reminds me of time? Death. More specifically mine. And all the things with which after at that point I will no longer rhyme and I'm on that run. I'm on that run. I'm on that run. I'm on that run. That's all time has his edge. He's our neck, he's our jeopardy. Otherwise, most desperate creature like you or I said, only longer, meaner and most lonely, meaner and most lonely. A terrible thing, really meaner and most. Like a corpse up at the slightest of quick. A creature specific and infinite, not just a mountain on a cloud tip. Decade length building width. Its workings are no rigid. Stab a batter only into it. Put simple time cuts away from it. Self not at you, may you not flash. These are troubled times, so I did mine. These are troubled times, so I did mines and I. These are troubled times, so I did mines and I. These are troubled times, so I run. I fucking run. I run and I run and I run. The hot baby pulled it was up in my neighbor. Reminds me of children for coughing for comas of freedoms to top of their both to lose teeth on their mouth. Taking blood in the mouth. Every paper should take us while knowing too well that their plastic gets child or damn it's already been hung out to dust. I'm sorry, what? Dust! The hot baby pulled it was up in my neighbor. Reminds me of children for coughing for comas of freedoms to top of their both to lose teeth on their mouth. Taking blood in their mouth. Every paper should take us while knowing too well that their plastic gets child or damn it's already been hung out to dust. What? What? Sorry, I don't get out much. Ashes to ashes and dust to dust. Enough! I'm from Oakland, and our state bird is bass. It says dangerous. Is that supposed to warn me? No, it says dangerous. Is that supposed to warn me? Thank you.
Woo!
That was amazing. Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
My pleasure.
You have so much like energy. It's like almost like I was like, I don't know if that's part of your body or like that's or this is your like it's all like all running together.
This is my exercise, you know?
Yeah.
This is what I
Yeah.
fucking sweated out for. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you for
Oh,
that.
my pleasure, Lyra.
Katie. What's up?
Debbie Downer over here because
No.
I'm gonna like screeching halt all that energy. Okay. But yeah.
No, you're not. No, you're not. So
Cool.
Katie,
Yeah.
we have talked a bit
Yeah.
and you've talked a lot recently about your sort of migrating from a computer out into experimenting with other things
Yeah.
than software. And it seems like now you're like having a moment.
I'm just all in. I think
Yeah.
for a while I was trying to kind of like use the computer and hardware, and I found myself just leaning on the computer. And I'm terrified of this because this is brand new, but I think it's a good fear because like nothing, what's going to happen all.
Right.
nothing. I mean, I maybe could have electrocuted, but the worst that can happen is I'll look silly, but that's not really. So yeah, the computer is like on the floor, and I'm not going to use it. So we'll see.
That's exciting. And how else do you learn, right? It's like, I feel like sometimes, don't you feel like sometimes just like picking up a new tool and just like putting it to use, you can really feel like you're like 5 years old again, and you're like,
yeah. Well, you hit it on the nose. It's that like exciting, falling in love, terror, joy feeling. It's like happy anxiety. So I definitely see it here, and I can't afford to keep rediscovering it in new places, but for now, I think this is a good zone to be in.
Great.
So.
Cool. Well, let's hear a little something. Just give us the demo,
Yeah.
and I'll let you take it away.
Okay. Hello?
Hello.
Nightingale in a little hollow, falling to, and a little swallow
Yay. Fantastic. Thanks, that was great. You get so many different colors from one signal. It's
Yeah.
like you're putting Katie here, and then you get so many different colors.
Yeah, like it's very scary
Crazy.
I mean, for me, it's very scary to sing. I grew up with a mom who was like a insanely brilliant vocalist, not like professionally, but so I was just like kept my mouth shut as a kid because I was like living with this genius. And I realized it makes me feel kind of supported and safe if I have some sort of friends with me or, you know, harmonizing with me or like just turning my voice into something more rhythmic. And it makes singing like really fun. Instead of this like, look at me, it's kind of like, look at us. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like software and hardware, music technology has empowered you as a singer to explore yourself creatively as a vocalist?
Yeah, I mean, I basically think I became a vocalist as a result of getting into Melodyne, and that is not a real-time software. You have to like kind of like sample it in, and then it allowed me to pull my voice higher than I can actually sing, and have pitch modulation that was really sort of insane and aggressive that I can't physically do. It expanded like the way I saw my voice. Instead of being like, oh, plain and not very exciting, it was like, oh, it's limitless. And then that helped me actually gain the confidence to sing more because I always knew I can shape my voice with these software tools. And this is a different kind of challenge, but it adds a lot of color, like you're saying. It adds a lot of company and
Yeah.
So
I like what you said, having little friends.
yeah.
Like also, I guess when you're
kind of
always
sad.
when you're always on the road and sort of like around, you know, you need little friends around.
Yeah, yeah, and they're quirky. You know, like they don't crash like sometimes software will crash. I don't know. There is something about physical objects. I didn't understand it as much when people would say like hardware, and but then yeah, it changes things for me at least. It kind of makes them. I attend to them more than a flat on a screen plug-in that maybe is really nicely, perfectly designed, but I have to MIDI map, and just having to MIDI map is like, ugh, you know.
They're different tools.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay, so that was phenomenal. What I'd like to do now is give y'all a chance to ask a few questions. Do we have the mics out there?
Rip the mic.
Hello. Does anyone have a question? Any thoughts stirring around in the room? None. There must be, right?
There's someone. There's a few people now.
Yeah.
I'm a producer, I've been working with a beatboxer, and I've been wondering how you get your beatboxing. Sorry, I'm a producer, I've been working with a beatboxer who approached me, and he was like, can you make me sound like this guy? Like, not you, but some other beatboxer who was great. And when I was recording him, I was like, wow, the dry signal's like really nothing like what comes out at the end. How do you process your beatboxing stuff live? Like, what do you put it through? And
Well, I'm going to use this mic. This is a great question. How do you process beatboxing? Really, if he's... It's a difficult question. Are you talking about in the studio or are you talking about on stage? I think you're talking about on stage. In the studio. Okay, well, I'm going to answer the on-stage question because I wish that's what you just said. And basically, you've got to crank up the bass. So you've got to crank up the highs. You basically make a smiley face, EQ. Maybe a tiny bit of compression, but not very much. But I'd say the processing is done in your face.
Yeah.
It's here. It's about... like...
What?
All right. Do you wanna throw down? Throw down.
Are you guys gonna battle?
I can't battle.
I thought you were challenging me,
I
Lyra.
thought that was too, man.
You want to fight?
No.
Okay.
No, I can't do that, but I want to hear more.
breathe, break.
Wow, fucking amazing.
Thank you. But to now very respectfully answer the question you were asking, which is beatboxing in the studio is an age-old problem for us beatboxers, right? There's so many people like me who love music and who create music with a voice. We get up on stage, it's that live dynamic excitement. Wow, he's doing it all with his voice. As soon as you take away that visual element and you take it in the studio, it's like, wow, he's making fart noises into a mic. So to kind of get that musicality to translate into studio-based music, you have to forget that performative excitement and just focus on the actual signal you're creating and the rhythms and the music and stop trying to be impressive. So I would say if you want to get a good sound out of your beatboxer, just get him to forget he's beatboxing. Don't make him think about a show. Don't make him think about making realistic sounds or anything like that. Just get him to make the music that's here. And in terms of processing, the same kind of thing. Like I've played around with using, a dynamic mic in the studio and using a condenser mic. I'd say dynamic every time because you can get that proximity. But just have a play, have a little experiment. It's fun.
I guess it's similar in a way to your performance, which is that, and something you mentioned earlier, which is just like sort of having to shut off in order to have it flowing.
Yeah,
Is
you gotta
that
let
right?
go. Yeah, you gotta let go, especially with fast rap or stuff where you might in the next 1 minute have a breath you can take. You just gotta let go, control. When people watch you and really enjoy it, they're not like, look at all that control.
Yeah.
They're just like, look at that whirlwind, So I think it's about getting out of your own way with all that shit.
Great. Does anyone else have a question? Yeah? Do we have a microphone?
Where that mic at?
There it is.
Great.
So I'm a vocalist, and I've always been really afraid of technology. But I think it's really interesting. But if you guys would all recommend like one thing that would be like the first thing to start playing with to not be
Can I say
afraid
it?
anymore.
A favorite toy?
Ableton.
Yeah?
I hate to say it. I grew up on 4-tracks. This is God's 4-track.
Yeah.
So,
But it's also so huge,
It's true, but again, it lets you use itself like a novice, So find your glass ceiling, and with skill and what your voice is doing, and then with Ableton, you won't have a technical glass ceiling. You can always get into more of what it can do for you. Other than that, though, like the mirror, I don't know. You want to, get into that mirror, bring it out of yourself. Aside from tech, practice, performance, sucking till you don't. Okay.
I would also suggest one of TC Helicon's Voice Live series. They've got a bunch of different effects, loopers, and they're the only hardware that's designed exactly for the voice. So they've got, if you like touch screens, they've got a Voice Live Touch. It's called, personally, I like to hit my stuff quite violently, so they've got stomp boxes as well. So if you just want to get started with vocal processing and like looping and doing kind of a lot of what Katie's doing there in one unit, then I'd suggest that.
Thank you.
Oh, screw what they said. No, no, I would say, so what I have done, which worked for me, is that initially I took people's recommendations, but it didn't feel right. So I devised this scheme where I order things on Amazon and use them for a few days and then return them and get refunded. But you can't break them. But it helped me because I found that the really inefficient trial and error is how I found what really feels right to me. And it's definitely not like a quick fix if you're looking to go on a tour. But you could go into a Guitar Center and fiddle around, play around. I mean, it may not be your thing, but it was worth it for me to just really try some stuff out to figure out what felt right.
Okay. Do we have one more? Oh, here, yes.
I would like to thank, because the Spectrum show today was really inspiring for me, the whole range, really amazing. And I have just two quick questions. The first one to Katie is, how you manage the noise. Like normally, working with the guitar players in my studio, a lot of noise come from the pedals, but your voice came crystal clear. Like, what did you do, or did you not do? Like, it was really impressive.
I think I got lucky because I have like a gate, like a noise gate that I always have on hand, and I don't use it unless I have a problem. Today I didn't have a problem, but it's tricky because it'll kind of, if it's a hard gate, it'll kind of cut into my voice. I have this like $20 Donner compressor pedal that's really quiet. This Electro Harmonix Pitchfork Electro Harmonix is kind of noisy, but today it's not. So yeah, I think it's just luck for now.
Perfect. It was
Yeah,
perfect.
thank you.
And to Dose, a quick one. Like you said before, like that you used like Tornado or whatever in the EQ controller to mangle your backing tracks, and it was amazing. So I just want a little bit more of your input. How you did that? Like, it's so impressive.
Well, again, too, it's a good button because it was bad buttons. So I go through everything. I have an expansive user library in Ableton where everything that makes me go, ooh, goes in, and everything that doesn't make me go, ooh, I never touch again. So it's really the few beat repeats that I love and trust. And I experiment with them in the privacy of my own sucking. And then when it feels good, I go out live. And then the wonderful thing about Ableton is you can iterate. That's not the right word for this, but you can change it after a set and be like, that was terrible. And then again, we talked about this at length, like a lot of the plugins I use in the home studio environment crash computers and hit your CPU really hard. So it's about finding the ones that play nice with not crashing.
So that seems to be something that's commonly coming up too, is like, you're on the road, you're also working with a lot of different systems, you're working with different sound tech, and you want something that's going to like have longevity that you can rely on, and computers are wonderful, but also it's about interfacing in your body as well.
Yeah, and again, like, no one can ruin my show. Not even, just me, not my computer. So it's about finding this way to like have this guy be your best friend, but when he tries to kill the middle of your set. So again, that's just about experimenting for me, like, find stuff that works.
Sure.
Yeah, fail till you succeed. I'm just reusing that whole.
That's a good one, though. I mean, that's like, you could reuse that for your whole life, I think.
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Just fail till you succeed.
Live till you die.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
Shlo, I wanted to come visit you again, and also this is a great segue. You have been coding more, right? And you're coding in Max for Live?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit more about, like, and you mentioned this earlier, but your needs, what your desires for your set and for your music, and how you solved that through coding, and also the interface with the push?
So for me, the starting point was wanting to lose the hardware and have it all happen in one place. And so I just initially wanted to emulate my equipment. So I had a loop station called the Boss RC505, which gives you 5 channels of looping. So you can have like your bass line on one channel, maybe like your hi-hats and vocals. Each one of those you can have like as many layers as you like, but you can bring them in and out independently from each other, which you can't do in Ableton. It does have a plugin called Looper, but it's a single channel emulation of a very simple loop pedal. So I wanted to create a way I could have like basically 5 instances of Looper on separate channels that I could observe and operate without ever touching or looking at the laptop. So push has to show me what all those 5 loopers are doing at any one time, using colors and flashing and other sexy stuff like that. And that was the bulk of the job, really, was to just emulate. But then once I'd got the hang of Max, I was like, well, this is so sick. I could basically do anything I want. Like, for example, I might not have mentioned it earlier, but I can hopefully sample all you guys in one go. Let's see if it works this time.
Oh, yeah.
After 3, can you go?
Let's see if it works.
Can you go like, ow? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Can you go, woo? 1, 2, 3. Can I get like, 2, 3, go? This is fun. This is really good fun.
Nice.
Ow!
Nice.
So that's like just functions that I always wished I could get the hardware to do, and then that understanding, that realization that using software programming, which I'd always had this terrible fear of, like when I was a teen, my brother handed me a book this thick called Teach Yourself Visual C++. And I was just like, nah, mate, I'm going to go and play the drums at a gig where there might be some girls. And like, just getting over that fear of code and creation meant that, like, that understanding, you can just make anything. If you can imagine something, you can make the computer do it like that. That's just like, yeah. I'm still like, the glitter bomb that went off that day is still flickering around the room now. Like,
so you're gonna keep coding now for your life. Is it something that's built into your practice now?
So it's an interesting question because I got really obsessed with it and I spent a whole year emulating my old kit and building all these functions. But now I'm working on this new solo album and I'm like hardly using any of them, and it feels really weird, like I spent ages building it, but I'm not even going to use it. But actually, I feel like that's kind of part of the process, because now everything I learned, everything I created is kind of part of who I am, and that story I have to tell. So I'm trying not to beat myself up for like procrastinating for a whole year by making this amazing machine as a way to hide from the fact that I didn't want to get started on my solo album. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. One more quick question about, and I have more questions for all of y'all about just like vocal technique. You know, because this is something, sampling your voice is one thing, obviously, but also it's like this, like for both of y'all who come from this sort of tradition of like, I don't know, like a performance background from a young age. Like, I mean, I heard about you when I was like 15, because Medulla by Björk was like one of my favorite albums. When I was a kid, I was like, ah, and then you did like so, and then you said you were, I don't know, what did you say? Ultra contemporary technique. Can you say something about that?
Yeah. So like, so I say ultra contemporary. Björk's Medulla album was 2004, so that's like 13 years ago. But so ultra 13 years ago, contemporary. There was a whole kind of scene created by that album. So if you don't know that album, Björk made this album of all vocals, and she assembled this kind of crazy lineup of vocalists from around the world for people like Mike Patton and Brazel. There was this guy from Japan called Tokaka, and there was this amazing Inuit throat singer called Tanya Tagak, and me and various other people. And after this album was created, there was this like international scene of vocal weirdos, right? And we like people would book us all to come and be this like circus of the voice. And at that time, I was so excited because I was fascinated by the voice and trying to push it to its limits. So yeah, and then that kind of helped me feel like legitimized, because before that I was just doing like beatboxing hip-hop covers and just trying to impress people with my, check out my Snoop Dogg. But like, and then it was like, okay, I can use this to make music that I can express myself, you know?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, you gotta escape your first influences because they print so hard on you. Actually, when I'm making music, I shut all input off these days, because if I listen to like,
So you mean input, like what you're listening to?
yeah, if like Boards of Canada drops a record, I'm like, no, I'm not allowed. You know, it's like, because I'm making what I'm making, and I'm gonna get their sugar in my tank if I, use it. So, and I like, as far as like technique too, what Shlomo was saying is like, I had to escape my preconceptions of how a rapper ought to sound and all my favorites, and I was like this melange of other people until I was myself. And then I went a little hard on the nasal, and that was me. And then I just let go, and I had like Y is another guy I've worked with. I remember my first time singing with him on some Cloud Dead thing, and he's like, can you do that again? That's not in key. And I was like, what's key? And he like, and I broke into like a full body sweat. And I kept trying to sing in key, and he would be like, and I was just like, are you sure? Because I just did what you did. Sure. And I actually had to learn all of that. And then I found a falsetto in the shower, and I was like, ah! So now it's just about unlearning your entire life.
Did you ever have a vocal coach?
Nah. I lost my voice a couple times. I went to a lady who told me about lemons and hot water. That's about that, yeah.
Okay. Nice. And okay, I think we're out of time. Is that it? We finished. Okay, sorry, I really wanted to offer some more time for questions, but we have to wrap up. Thank you so much to Katie Gately.
Thank you, guys.
Doseone, Shlomo.
Thank you, Lyra.
Thank you, Lyra.